Welcome to the Community Collective podcast. I'm Johnny B. Good, the flip-flop agent, and I've partnered with the Davison Area Chamber of Commerce to bring you the stories that shape our local communities. In our third season, our focus is about connecting, learning, and celebrating the voices that make our communities unique. Join us during this third season as we engage in thoughtful conversations and insightful moments. This podcast is commercial-free and supported by both myself, my co-host, and our guests. We would be so appreciative if you could like, share, and subscribe as we continue having conversations that matter, and cannot thank you enough for taking the time to listen.
Well, hello and welcome to a new edition of the Community Collective podcast. I am Travis Howe, the Executive Director of the Davison Area Chamber. My co-host, Johnny B. Good, the original flip-flop realtor, is out selling some homes today. So I am excited that I get to talk to our guest today. I've been able to get to know her a little bit more recently, but I think what she is focusing on and her passion is something a lot of people are aware of. So we have Nicole Colley. She is the Senior Development Manager with the Alzheimer's Association of Michigan. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, how's your day going so far? I mean, the sun's out and shining, so
Hey, in my book, this is day 3 of sunshine in Michigan, and it's 56 degrees today, and it's supposed to be warm again tomorrow. So it's a good day in my book.
it really is. I tell you, it makes a big difference in how I feel and get excited about just going outside for a little bit and enjoying it. So, wow. Well, good. No, Nicole, just to make sure we're covering everything, what are with the Alzheimer's Association of Michigan, what region do you cover for people listening?
Yeah, so I specifically cover Genesee County and Livingston County. The way that we're set up, our main headquartered office is in Southfield. We've got some other offices kind of sprinkled around the state, and we have staff sprinkled all over the state. So some of the staff reports to those offices that they're closest to, and some of us work a little bit more remote. And everybody kind of covers a few counties, or it kind of depends on what their role is. But yeah, we kind of cover the whole state that way.
Well, good. All right. Well, I think that gives people a good geographic area that are listening. So, Nicole, one thing that I think people will be really interested in knowing more about is in your role with the Alzheimer's Association, how do you approach the challenge of engaging the community and raising awareness about Alzheimer's disease and its impact on families?
So I'm gonna just put it out there and say my personal motto and kind of how I do everything, personal, business, whatever, is just meeting people where they are. So in my personal role, I will say yes for any kind of public speaking thing that I am ever asked. Any chance I get to go talk about Alzheimer's in the community, I will say yes to. I'm kind of how I ended up here today with you. Um, but I can't tell you how often I meet somebody in the community who had no idea that we existed while they were caring for their loved one. And they say things like, man, I wish I knew about you guys 2 years ago or 3 years ago or what have you. And it just breaks my heart to hear that. So just meeting people where they are, I think, is a big thing for me and my team. And so my team of volunteers, we tend to kind of go to events instead of trying to create whole new events every month that we're trying to get people to come to. So the more that we can meet those people, the more we can kind of create awareness and just keep using that ripple effect to spread the word. So when we go to events like that, we're talking about all of our programs and services, and we're handing out our brochures and making sure people know about our resources. And then we're also promoting the walk. So we can tell people about the walk and even help people register on the spot if they'd like. Um, and then for walk specifically, if somebody has registered, we tend to then follow up with them and kind of ask, do you have any questions about walk day or about fundraising? And can we help you out in any way? So hopefully that just kind of keeps trickling.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's the big focus is making contact with people and spending time with them to educate and getting them involved, which I'm sure with both Livingston and Genesee County, I mean, those are two big geographic areas and population areas. So I'm
Yeah.
sure you're always finding time to talk to someone, but it has to be busy. with
It is, and,
two
I'm
guys.
really glad that you brought that up because when I said ripple effect, I love that you brought that up because I want a chance to explain that a little bit more. I think that we're like some companies, right? There are companies out there that do things in a peer-to-peer model, but one thing that I really like about the association is the fact that absolutely everything is a peer-to-peer model. So not just our fundraising, but all of our volunteer efforts too. So whether it's the fundraising model being peer to peer and that we don't get the majority of our money from Lion Company sponsorships and things like that, right? It gets people in our community raising the funds that all add up to the number we come up with. So that's amazing. But in the same respect, when it comes to even advocacy or programming and education, say for take example the education programs that we do in the community. We have one program person over multiple counties, something like maybe 10 counties, depending on which area they're in and how populated they are. So that one person can't possibly be everywhere to give these education programs. It follows the same model as we do for fundraising. So that person recruits volunteers, they go through a whole training, they learn how to give our programs with wonderful scripts and slideshows so that they're giving it as if it was us giving it. And then they are sent out into the community to then teach these programs that we book as many places as we can. So without that amazing team of volunteers to go out and really power all of that happening, we wouldn't be able to reach people. So obviously, the more that we continue to grow in both programs and in walk, the more people we can reach.
Yeah, wow. I think that's the amazing part right there is I'm sure you're bringing in families that have a loved one that has Alzheimer's, or you're just maybe even new people that just want to get involved, which I think the amazing thing about what you all do. And when I've had the chance to sit down and talk to you, for me, it's been very educational. But then I've also, seen you at other events or just where you have a table with information for people. And I mean, I think even what recently you guys had a night at a hockey game as well. So you guys are everywhere.
Yeah, we try to be. I mean, as often as I think in one of my communities, I often hear, "Oh, you guys are those purple people. We see you everywhere." And so, as much as we can kind of mimic that and make that happen everywhere in Michigan, so that when people realize, "Oh, there's something going on with this in my family. Where did I see those purple people, and how do I find them to get the resource?" That's the
I,
reaction that I want.
I like it. So, kind of going along with your story and your background, what inspired you to become deeply involved with the Alzheimer's Association, and how has your personal or professional background influenced your work in this field?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a long story that I will try to trim down for you, but basically, I went to school for recreation therapy. Thought I was going to work in a hospital setting forever. Moved to the state of Tennessee, and I couldn't find work in hospitals, and ended up falling into long term care. I very quickly fell in love with it. I loved working with the older population. And from day one, every facility that I was in had memory care, and that specifically, I was just really drawn to, and so that's kind of what I put everything into. I started doing walks with a couple coworkers just kind of for fun and because it fit with work and just did more and more and we had a blast with it. And then at some point I started doing education programs and support groups with my facilities with the association down there. And then in 2016, my husband got a new job and it moved us back home to Michigan. And that year, his grandfather got diagnosed as well. And so, we're a pretty close family. We're a pretty big family, and it felt, God's perfect timing to bring us home right then. And I would say maybe a year and a half or 2 years later is when this position was open. And at that point, I'd already been volunteering and walking, and I was like, you know what? I love doing that. I wonder if I could do it full time. I'll just try to apply. And so I did, and here I am, and I'm 5 years in now, and I love what I do. I love working with the people. I love the fundraising portion of it. I really love the education portion of it. And so it's just something that I love, and obviously it's hit me in a professional way and very much in a personal way too.
Yeah, and it does. It seems that your organization is very family focused, which from your experiences with interacting with people, do you see that it's where families are doing this together, or you're getting people involved because of that family connection to it?
Yeah, that's so true, and I'm glad that you said that because I think that There's a huge misconception still in the world that Alzheimer's is something, or Alzheimer's and dementia, I should say, is just something like, oh, older people just forget things, and it's so much more than that. It's a completely fatal disease that robs somebody of so much more than just their memory. I mean, eventually they're unable to do anything. If you think of it kind of the way I explain it to people when I'm in a public setting and they're asking more about Alzheimer's specifically, your brain is like the epicenter of everything. It controls everything that you do, you think, you move, everything. And so Alzheimer's isn't just forgetting things, it's your brain slowly dying. And so eventually, everything that is controlled by the brain is not going to work to the point that it will slowly dwindle down and then you do eventually die from it. And so when you go through that, you're not only losing memories, but you're losing functions, and it's something that doesn't just affect that individual, but it affects the caregivers and the rest of the family that are losing a loved one really slowly over time sometimes. And so it's something that truly affects entire families and in turn affects businesses and affects the communities.
Nicole, what is kind of the walk to end Alzheimer's is a significant event for the Alzheimer's Association. Can you share more about the goals for the 2024 walk in Flint, Michigan,
Yeah.
and how individuals and teams can get involved?
Yeah, so the walk is by far our largest fundraiser. It helps all of the programs and services that we have happen. So everything that we do in the community, from support groups, education programs, care consultations, our helpline, you name it, all have to be supported somehow to make it free for caregivers. So the walk is one of the biggest ways that we do that. This year in Flint, it's going to be Saturday, October 19th, down in the flat lot. And we're hoping to get back up to our pre COVID numbers. So we're hoping for a 700 people, $125,000 a year. It's completely free to register, and registration is already open, believe it or not. A lot of people kind of wait until a little bit longer. A lot of people hop on early and get registered because they're the ones that are like gunning for it and ready to fundraise their butts off until we get to the end of the season. And I encourage everybody to create a team. So this is a question that I get asked a lot. Sometimes people register as individuals, or sometimes people are like, "Oh, well, I can't bring like." I think the word team is scary to people. They think they need to have 20 people for a team or something. And a team can be one people or it can be 100 people. It really doesn't matter. I say all the time, just invite any family or friends that you have to attend with you, because you never know when maybe your neighbor or your coworker or something may be struggling and they just haven't really taken that first step to ask for help. And then they get this invitation from you to come walk, and that might finally be their first step in finding the help that they need. Um, so lastly, I'll just add on that fundraising isn't required, but it's obviously super helpful. So if you want to fundraise, we can help give you tips and supplies and that kind of thing. That's part of that follow up that we do. And even if you're interested in fundraising, but maybe you can't attend on October 19th, definitely still register, because there's no reason that you can't be a team and fundraise throughout the year. And then maybe you can't attend the day of, but you can be there with us in spirit and we can still celebrate you.
Yeah. So to try to give people an idea, maybe they're new to the idea of doing one of these walks. What goes on that day? I mean, is what's the day like when someone shows up?
So the day itself is just kind of your family friendly, fun atmosphere. I think when you hear walk, it's so much more than that. You're not just coming to walk. It's not, the walks that we've had forever that are like, you sponsor per mile or something and you're doing this distance. It's not really that. It's more like an entertainment, fun family atmosphere. And so our home base is the flat lot. We walk a little over a mile, kind of depending on how the route goes that year, and then you end in the flat lot. And so some people even come and just enjoy the fun. And then maybe they can't, like I've had a lot of people say, well, I can't walk because of my knee, or, grandpa can't do this or that. Just come and enjoy the day. And you don't have to do the walk portion if you can't. But we typically have a couple of hours in the morning that's packed with fun stuff to do. So whether it's games and face painting for the kids, whether you're getting refreshments and coffee, we have entertainment from all over. So last year we had somebody that came and did Elvis for us. We had a singer-songwriter duo that came. The Davison Dance Team came last year. So there's a lot of fun things going on as well. And last year we even added our own mascot for the first time. So we now have Allie the unicorn. She's a big purple unicorn that walks around and dances with the kids and high fives people on the route and stuff. So it's just a really fun day, and it's something that, like I said, it's not just your standard, you're just coming to walk and leave. It's really meant to be like a community event.
Okay, well, good. So, given your extensive experience, how do you see events like the Walk to End Alzheimer's fostering a stronger sense of community and support among those affected by Alzheimer's in Michigan and really anywhere?
So I am going to say what I say to a lot of people, and you might think it sounds a little funny, but I like to say that Walk is our largest support group, a big purple hug. So my one of my favorite moments on walk day is seeing somebody discover kind of the cause or the mission and the fact that they're not alone for the first time. So that can look a few different ways. Sometimes it's just like you're looking around and you notice that somebody's standing there kind of like mouth agape looking around like wow, I had no idea this was all here. Sometimes it's that moment, one of the best moments of the day is during the opening ceremony where we all raise our flowers and you just look around and there's hundreds of flowers and you realize, wow, all of these people are here for the same reason as me. Like they get it. They get what I'm going through and I am not alone in this. And that to me is just something magical and it's something that you can't get unless you're like there in that setting.
I love that you mentioned that showing the people you're not alone in this. And I think that's a lot of times what goes on when you've talked to someone that maybe their family member's been diagnosed and they have no idea what to do next.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I'm sure they go straight to the internet and start kind of researching a little bit and trying to read about it. But it sounds like your organization is perfect for finding those support groups, for finding the education, but then also just actually having these events like this that shows that there's a lot of people affected by Alzheimer's and that they can be there for you. And it might be your neighbor, it could be someone that you've never met before, but this connection brings you together. I love that. The focus is being a support group and it includes everybody from kids to parents to grandparents to a lot of individuals throughout the communities, which is great. I think more organizations need such a good support group. And I know it takes a lot of work behind the scenes to get something like this ready and to show it. So I think the just doing the walk is just one small thing that you all offer. So what's some other things that your organization, if someone was to reach out to you, what are things they could ask, or what are ways that you guys provide information to them?
So I always tell people, that the number one thing to remember, if you remember nothing else, is our helpline. It's kind of it's not just a call for help, it's also a just literally call for anything. So if you're like, hey, I heard this talk and they said something about this, but I can't really remember, call the helpline. They will help you figure out what it was. The helpline number is 800-272-3900 and it's completely free. It's 24/7, so it can be 3 in the morning, it can be Christmas, it doesn't matter. You could be calling for something simple. Okay, like I said, I heard this and I can't remember. It could be like, we can look up anything by zip code. So maybe you need a new doctor in the area, or maybe you're looking for a facility or a home care or whatever. You can call and ask what's in your area, and they'll look to see what's closest to you. It could be something more in depth, like maybe you are caring for a loved one, you've had a really rough week and they're just going bonkers this one day in particular, and you can't figure out, you've tried everything you can think of to help them in the situation that they're in, or to get them to take a shower, to get them to stop talking to the cat that's not there, whatever the situation is. And you're just like, I'm just done. I've tried everything and nothing's working. And so you can call the helpline and one of our social workers will be there 24/7 to talk to you and give you suggestions or what have you to help you through the situation. Or it can literally just be to vent too. I mean, maybe you've just had a really rough week and you finally just lost it and you just need to spew it out and give it to somebody that understands and help yourself feel better for a minute. And that is completely fine too. So it is there for everybody all the time.
Yeah.
I
So
feel like that
repeat
was a
the phone
mouthful.
number one more time for anyone that's trying to write it down.
Yeah, it's 800-272-3900.
Perfect. And I think this is one of the advantages of having a podcast and finding new outlets to get information out there is you have so many, I think, listeners either on various podcasts or social media or, like you said, in person when you go to meet with them, that you're sharing this information just to get it out there and hopefully they share it and it finds the right way to get information to everyone. So, no, Nicole, I think that's great. And I think that's what people need to know about is that you guys are there all the time.
Yeah.
And this is something that once your family member probably is diagnosed with it, it's constantly needing to learn more. And there's going to be new challenges that come their way. And so it sounds like you guys are the best resource for anybody to reach out to. So as you will continue to make strides, or as there continues to be more strides in Alzheimer's research and support, what are some of the key developments or initiatives you're most excited about in the near future for the Alzheimer's Association in Michigan?
So obviously, this is a super exciting time in research specifically. I mean, we currently have a few drugs that are actually changing the course of the disease, not just treating symptoms only. And we expect one more this year already. And this is something that 15 years ago we didn't have this kind of stuff. So it's amazing. But research is not only looking at things like drugs that can help, but we have current studies going on that are about caregivers and what we can do for them as well. And I know one thing that's hopefully coming down the pike soon is the idea of being able to just go get a simple blood test to be diagnosed, because right now getting an actual diagnosis can be so cumbersome. So there's a lot of really awesome things happening, but in the meantime, supporting our community is incredibly important. So while we continue to pump out our current programs, we're always looking for new partnerships as well to kind of, like I said before, keep that ripple effect going, right? If we keep talking and talking and talking to the same people that already know about us, we don't get the awareness and the programs and the resources out to new people. So the more we can partner with somebody else that will then reach additional people, the better. So I kind of have a couple of examples, but the newest example I have for the Flint area right now is we collaborated with the FIA, and they have a new program called Art Spark. And so that's a program where they're bringing together affected individuals and their loved ones with other people going through the same thing for social engagement. And they're able to come to the FIA for programming. And so that's something that it's something we collaborated on. It is their program that they're putting on. And we're always looking for new partnerships like that. We also do a lot of DE&I work in Michigan with programming, so I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily the right person to ask about specifics for each program because it's not my department, but I can absolutely get you another person for maybe like a follow-up episode because I feel like there's just so much.
Yeah.
But just quick little list of examples. We have Spanish programs and African American programs. We have a few staff members specifically that work with the LGBTQ community and HIV population. We have some people specifically working on developmental disabilities and Alzheimer's. And we're working on stuff with veterans. So there's just so many little niches that we're trying to, kind of like I said before, meet people where they are, right? We can't just sit in the same place and keep putting the same information out there. We have to be able to evolve with the times and meet people in their own communities where they are and figure out what they need for help, not what we think they need for help.
Yeah. Wow. Nicole, thank you so much. I agree. There's so much, probably more information that needs to be shared and get out there. And this conversation, we always hope that this podcast is able to get at least a conversation going, get people thinking, and just sharing resources of what's going on in the area, but also how people can find that a little additional help or knowledge they might need. So Nicole Colley, thank you so much from Alzheimer's Association of Michigan. I'm representing Livingston and Genesee County. So big area. Excited to keep seeing what you guys are doing and always looking for those people in purple and around town. So, well, good. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on and joining us and just sharing a lot of good, helpful resources.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.